Welcome back to Critics and Cynics. I'm here on a special episode. We are covering Godzilla, the original motion picture, with our field expert, Jeremiah John Heldreth. We also have our helper, or our backup crew, Zachariah David, and we are going to talk about this classic film. I am by no means an expert on Godzilla, but our expert knows the ins and outs of the Godzilla universe, and he will help us navigate.
Ins and outs, wow, you're really hyping me up. I just watched a handful. I've seen a bunch of the original Godzilla movies, but I am by no means some international expert too. So Godzilla, or the original title, Gojira.
Yes, that's very important.
That's the original title, and then Americans just did Godzilla because it's easier to pronunciate. Tongue-tied right there. But yeah, I'm Jeremiah, and I really, really like Gojira and all giant monster movies, pretty much. As some people might know it, kaijus and whatever. Giant monsters. Yeah.
And I do not really care for kaijus. Most movie monsters, I'm not a big fan. Like the big ones. Classic movie monsters I love, like the Invisible Man, Dracula, the Wolfman. Those guys are dope. But Jeremiah has been trying to get this episode made and produced.
Trying? All I had to do was wait for Thanksgiving. That's it. I'm his brother, and I was like, bro, come on. I'm your brother. Allow me to be on. If you have brothers, you could just get that sway.
So we've had multiple, guest hosts. Lily Burnett, she came on and she recommended Forrest Gump. That's why we had the Forrest Gump episode. We had Micho. He's come on a couple of times. I think he's a fan favorite. And who can forget Maria Shinover? And this time it was Godzilla. And Jeremiah, tell us what Godzilla, the movies, what they mean to you, and why do you enjoy them as, classics?
So, the reason why I like the giant monster flick, which I'll just be calling kaijus, because that's what I've been calling them this entire time. So, the kaiju series and genre, whatever, I love the creativity. Because you have to come up with the idea of some form of giant monsters. Not every giant monster is the same. Everyone is different and unique, unless they're just basing it off the same creatures. But even then, they have like different personalities, like the movie Meg and Jaws.
Yes.
Both sharks are they're both giant sharks, but one's obviously way bigger than the other one. But the way they handle the sharks is different. Jaws has a different personality than Meg. With Godzilla, there's he has multiple movies, I think 32 last time I checked, different movies of Gojira and Godzilla or whatever. I'm just going to be bouncing between the two. It's going to be hard. But whatever. Each Godzilla movie is unique and different, and none of them are the same. And then there's believe it or not, different timelines. So each movie has its own unique timeline. It's obvious now with the whole Legend Godzilla thing. You have this Monsterverse. I just call them Legends, but some people know it as the Monsterverse whole title. And Godzilla vs. King Kong's coming out next year. I'm so excited for it. Sorry, but yeah. But giant monsters are always unique. My favorite giant monster is called Titanosaurus, which is an aquatic giant monster that appeared in Godzilla. I think it's Godzilla vs. Titanos or Godzilla vs. Mega Godzilla 3. It's one of those, but yeah. It's this giant aquatic. It has fins, and its tails can create hurricane force level winds, and it uses it to push back Godzilla. It's an awesome movie. I highly recommend watching it if you like giant monster movies. And I think it's awesome because it also introduces the alien, but whatever. Anyways, my favorite Godzilla movie is Godzilla vs. Titanus. But anyways, Pacific Rim. Each kaiju, if you watch it, each one looks different, sounds different, and like feels different in my opinion. You got the Leatherback, which is the big one that crushes the Russians' mech to pieces as they're submerged. And then I forgot what the other one was called, but he's like slithers and shoots acid and like has the wings. But yeah, when I see giant kaiju monster movies, each one has its own unique personalities, and it depends on what the person wants to portray. So Godzilla is pretty much represents the nuclear holocaust to the Japanese people.
Well, there wasn't a nuclear holocaust. It was
whatever.
Yes.
I don't know why I said Holocaust. It's just
it happened during World War II.
Yeah.
But I think what Jeremiah is trying to say is I think Godzilla really kicked out the movie Kaijus, and I could see why watching the film last night.
Godzilla and King Kong are the ones that truly built this entire kaiju franchise.
I would say King Kong would definitely more Americanized. Just with it takes place in New York, and he really hardly does any damage compared to Godzilla.
Yeah.
I think Godzilla inspired more of the kaijus and the more of these Meg kind of creatures. But they were saying in the bonus features last night that Godzilla was inspired by King Kong. So.
Well, yeah. So. When Godzilla came out, there was the movies King Kong.
Uh-huh.
King Kong was becoming really popular. He came out, I forgot, whatever. And you had Clash of Titans or whatever.
Yes.
Or Attack on Titans or whatever it's called.
Attack on Titans.
No, it's not. It's Clash of Titans, whatever. Which both movies are stop motion pictures, and for those of you who don't know, it's pretty much stop motion is just like a clay figure or a puppet, and you just move it and take multiple snapshots of that and then just speed up the pictures to have it look like it's moving. Godzilla, the original Gojira, wanted to go this route, but due to the limit on time and money, they had to do a different alternative. So that's why they went with the rubber suit.
And I'm really glad that they did. I would say it definitely looks a lot better than the original King Kong, which I've seen the original King Kong, and yes, it's, awesome, and it broke what they could do back in the day. But it's definitely dated. Godzilla, it's dated, but not to the extent I think King Kong is. There are some moments where I'm like, okay, he is barely, you could tell
totally
it's a guy.
Derpy looking.
Yeah, it looks stupid, but then just even his movements compared with the models and how they were able to use the effects to really look like this. It was this monster figure. I say it holds up for the most part. Unless if you I know there's gonna be a lot of people and they're like, oh, it looks like trash, blah 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 blah. Give 20 years, give 80 years to the CGI, special effects, and people in the future are going to say the same things to the movies we love now. So relax.
Very few movies during that period of time barely ever hold up. Looks as good as it does when you're watching it now. I'm just like, this was made in 54, and that's how many years, how many decades was that ago?
And when you go to watch a movie, you should not be going to be a critic. You're there for an experience. You're there to go through something special. And if you're trying to nitpick, you aren't going to get the full experience. One of my favorite movies is Hoodwink. It's the animated short with, the fairy tale creatures. The CGI is ugly. It's disgusting to look at, but the characters and the story, it's amazing. It's top notch, and it's one of my favorite animated films. If I went in there with a detective with that's gross, they didn't use shading, lighting, just the weight, I would disregard it, and I probably wouldn't have watched it.
When I watch movies, I always what I keep in mind is what area was it made from.
Yes.
And then I have that in the back of my head, and I'm just okay, so it's from this era. How good were the graphics back in that time?
Yep.
And I'm pretty sure Clash of Titans, King Kong, and Godzilla were probably the most dominant animated kind of stuff during that time. So during its time, I'm pretty sure it was like a top dog for animation. Actually, in King Kong, so you know in the new one with Jack Black, there was the bug pit.
Yes.
Well, in the old one, there was actually a bug pit scene, but they had to remove it because it was quote-unquote too realistic, and people were actually terrified when they were doing the showing thing, the test audience stuff. All the test audience, like, wanted to leave the theaters when that scene popped up. So, yeah. And, yeah, it came from 20,000 Phantoms, I think? Whatever, it's about
20,000 Leagues Underneath the Sea.
No, it came from 20,000 Phantoms. It's about giant sea lizard thing coming up, and they pretty much strapped a fin onto an iguana and had it run through the city, and that was top quality right there as well.
And also, for the background noise, if you can't tell, we're actually traveling on the field right now in Georgia.
Yeah, we're in a car.
Yes, it's very, we're trying to gather all the information, so this episode's going to be more of a live documentary approach. So
yeah. So, I just realized we never talked about what Godzilla is about. I'm pretty sure that everybody knows the whole shtick. A giant monster seems to appear out of nowhere, causing trouble and mayhem, and humans are just trying to figure out what's going on, what's happening, and they find out that it's this giant monster.
And honestly, okay, with films or good films, we've gone over this 1,000 times, that you should not preach your message. The message should be with the story, and show, don't tell. What Godzilla does great from the majority of the movie is show the effects of nuclear fallout with, the people, with the dread, what it does to a civilization. Sure, yeah, it kind of gets preachy at the end with, like, oh, what are we going to do, all that stuff. But what I appreciate about Godzilla is they have different point of view characters, and they all have different opinions. It's not one message of nuclear power is just the worst and we should never touch it and whatever. There were characters of, should we kill Godzilla, or let's kill Godzilla, or could be another Godzilla because of what we're doing, what we're tampering with as men. And I really like the dialogue of what it means to be a scientist and what it means to be human, and are you just pursuing science for the sake of science or to improve humanity? Honestly, I was surprised with how complex the story was and how it wasn't super upfront in your face with it. It wasn't like, I'm Godzilla, I am global warming, I'm going to wipe you out, raise your taxes. It was none of that. It was, wow, I actually thought about, in this scenario, if we did have this monster of, this nuclear uncertainty, what it would look like on film. And I think the original Godzilla, paints that picture in an amazing light. And I actually was left feeling emotions and actually thinking about the film after the credits started rolling. So for a first viewing experience, yeah, I could see why there's 35 riff-offs. Okay, well, there are some good sequels, but 35 sequels because of this one film. So if you haven't seen Godzilla, totally watch it. Our colleague in the back, Zachariah, said, the reading, it was too much, but if you can get used to reading with subtitles, you'll be fine. And if so, just...
Let me clarify this. So, Godzilla has a subbed and dubbed version.
Oh, yes.
The subbed version was made in 1954. The dubbed version was made in 1956. The dubbed version has a completely different storyline. They pretty much kind of reshot the whole thing. With Godzilla attacking the city, or like Godzilla appearing and stuff, they kept those parts, and like the ending they kept, but they pretty much remade the entire sequence of the dubbed version for the American audience. Because they didn't. So, in movies, when it's in a different language and it's live action, trying to do lip over in your language over what's already placed always looks horrible. Always. I have never watched a movie where they're like, there was a movie that my brother loves, not Joshua, but one of our other ones. It's called Troll Hunter. It's Dutch. And
it's
Norwegian, whatever. It's close, same, right? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm horrible with nations, I guess. But whatever. It's in this Norwegian language, and there's the regular dialect with English subtitles. It's the subbed. And then there's the dubbed, which is the one where it's English and whatever. The mouth overs always seem out of sync, and the voices kind of feel off. I have never, ever watched one. And to explain, yeah, whatever. I don't really need to. I don't know. So subbed, everybody knows it's subtitles. Dubbed just means that it's just the whatever language you're primarily in going in. So if you're a French group and it was an American movie and you want to translate it into French, it would be considered dubbed. Hopefully I explained that.
And honestly,
right.
With other films, if you really want to get into other movies and other international films, especially now since the Academy has Best International, well, it's always been that, but I guess foreign film, but now it's an international film. Practice on the dub, because there are some amazing movies out there. Life is Beautiful, the Italian film, I think it's still the most awarded international film of all time. I don't know if another film has come and taken that crown, but there are multiple films that are totally worth watching. They're just in another language, and if it's a good film, actors, they talk fast, so the subtitles will come at you like it's a lot sometimes. But if you can stomach that, I would even say the same thing is for black and white films. I know people are like, I don't like black and white. It looks so boring. I don't engage with it. It's not colorful. Start getting your palette, your cinematic palette, used to that, because there are so many great films that are in black and white. And if you could just get rid of your colorful I need brights, I need different. No, if you could just sell for that, there are amazing characters and stories with foreign films and old black and white films.
Or if you have a unique ability to just color everything for yourself. Honestly, when I watch Godzilla, I pretty much add color, like subconsciously, through my creativity, because I'm very creative.
Imagination.
I add my own color. I always picture Godzilla kind of like a really dark green color. And it kind of helps that since I have the poster of the original Godzilla. Well, I have this poster thanks to Joshua to hang it into my room. It's awesome. It's in my room. My room is actually green as well.
Maybe Jeremiah just likes the color green.
Honestly, my favorite color is blue. But anyways.
Exactly.
Honestly, I just want to clarify. I don't want to be misunderstood. You can watch a movie that's dubbed and have a really enjoyable thing. I'm just like, when I watch it, it's just hard to not notice that the mouths don't come into sync. But it is, if you can't handle the sub, watch and dub. Don't let the language barrier, if it is whatever. If you have a movie and you can't read the subtitles quick and fast enough, which is totally understandable, try doing the dub if you have one in dubbed in your language?
Honestly, the dubbed is okay because a couple of days ago, me and Jeremiah watched Shin Godzilla and dubbed, and after a while, I just completely stopped noticing that the mouths were out of sequence. I just was focusing on the story because it was an amazing story. But yeah, I was just happy about that. So yeah. It is possible to watch dubbed without noticing. It's just I was too busy paying attention to the plot to really notice the mouths.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, we will take a quick break and come back with you with the rest of this amazing podcast. Okay, we are back with the second half, and during our amazing break, Jeremiah came up with a couple of points about the film and its message, so I will turn it over to Jeremiah.
Yeah, so it's a pretty straightforward message, as all things during that era, like Doctor Strangelove and whatever, it's just pretty much the whole nuclear threat kind of thing. But with Gojira, it was a little more to that because Japan actually experienced bombings firsthand. And in the movie, they also brought up the fact of radioactive tuna, which actually happened before they shoot. So there was still nuclear testing going on near Japan, and a fishing ship was catching tuna near the bombing site. The Americans didn't clear all the vessels from that area, and the tuna got into the docks, and they actually sent them out. And then the guys started feeling sick, and then they realized it was radioactive, and they had to call back a bunch of tuna and get rid of it. And then but yeah, the Japanese people really felt like it was really a personal thing with nuclear stuff when it comes to that message and whatever. And if you watch it when Godzilla comes out of Tokyo Bay and wreaks havoc on the 3 districts, whatever, prefectures, whatever it's called, and goes back into the sea, there's this whole aftermath thing, which really, really hits me every time I watch it. It's just rubble, destruction, and just a bunch of people still sick and hurt, and they really were just trying to.
It's not like a 1990s disaster film where cities are blowing up and people are dying, and the cutscene is just some guy making a sarcastic joke, and he's just well, crap.
It's not some guy on a nuclear warhead falling down while whacking his hat against it, going yeehaw.
Exactly.
On his way down. It's sobering.
Yeah, they have respect for what they're basing it on, and honestly, that's why I don't like most kaiju movies. It's just so unrealistic, and in regards with humanity, it's just buildings falling down. That's why I really didn't like Man of Steel, the ending. Sure, yeah, it was cool, but buildings were falling down, and it was just gotta get back to the fight. I don't know if it's just the post 9/11 of okay, we don't have a tolerance for that, but honestly, hats off to Godzilla. They definitely were respectful with it, and again, for the millionth time, they weren't preachy, which is great. They weren't if you don't agree with this message, you're the most terrible person. It was just saying, yeah, there is a cost with, nuclear warfare. And what I really liked was the threat of, nuclear arms, when he was talking about, what could happen if we test? Will another monster get out? And I find that ironic because it wasn't right before the Cold War. It took a couple decades for us to get there. But this film was pre-Cold War, and that was all this threat about bombs coming and civilizations possibly falling down and coming from the sea. And when the Russians tried to send the nukes to Cuba and all that stuff, that was taking place in the sea, and nuclear submarines going on. And I really appreciated how Godzilla was ahead of its time. Excuse me. Kind of the way the Joker was ahead of its time, for better or for worse, about riots and society crumbling and all that stuff, which we didn't have to wait decades for that. It happened within this year. But it's a good film if it's a mirror of culture, if it has something to say, and if we could see our reflection or even our future within the film, that's how you know it's going to be timeless. That's how you know it's a movie worth watching. It's not, the coolest special effects. It's not, this popcorn flick, which there's nothing wrong with escapist entertainment. I just really prefer to see a film that has something to say and having a good time, because genuinely there were some scenes where I was like, okay, that's actually a really, really cool scene. Zach was talking about how the metal would melt. I really like the miniatures. I thought they did a great job with the miniatures. It was very detailed. But I think my favorite scene would have to be when they're on the radio tower and it's a bunch of reporters and they just have to get the scoop. So Godzilla just climbs up and then just throws the tower down with them still on it. That was actually really cool. And honestly, I kind of was aggravated, but had to give props to the guy. And he was just like, I'm reporting it. This is my death. Remember me. And
this is my last report. See you, everyone.
I was
Bye.
just like, the commitment to his craft. Like,
but my favorite is Dr. Serizawa. The first scientist you could ever find in movie history or whatever that wears an eye patch, that's a scientist that's not evil. Not evil, dudes. He's the main hero, dude.
He's a heartbroken man stuck in a love triangle, and at the end he gives his permission for his fiancée to love another man. I'm not a fan of love triangles. I think they're sloppy. I think they're just unnecessary for the most part. But I think this love triangle, I think it had something to say. Just how the scientist was like, I don't want to use my science for evil, and then one guy was like, we have to defend humanity, and then they had this philosophical debate in the movie with like, what should we do with science? And I honestly
one of my favorite quotes is, he's like, the doctor's talking and he's like, so he pretty much was researching oxygen. That was like, he was just like researching it, and he came across this element where he can just annihilate all oxygen in a facility, whatever. My tongue's tied or whatever. So pretty much obliterating all oxygen
in the water.
Well, not only in water. It could be like airborne and destroy the oxygen in the air, but he's doing it in water because it's safer than vaporizing the oxygen in the air.
Fair enough.
So yeah, and it will just tear apart all organic material, and yeah, he pretty much like a bunch of fish, which I think is cool. It shows the fish like slowly turning, like breaking apart, and then turn to bone, and then the bone disappears. It's sure, yeah, the girl, acting was a little over the top in that scene. I love the movie. A lot of the acting is awesome, but that girl sometimes, she just...
Hey.
I know, they had a budget. So, but no, actor-wise, the dudes in the suit, props to them.
Oh yeah, because didn't they
the
like
studio was
like
like 90 degrees, and the suit made 115. Once you're in that suit, you're literally being baked alive. And when they go, and when Godzilla's rising out of the water, you know how it was like quick pace?
Yeah.
It's not, because the guy was literally holding his breath. He had to hold his breath, submerge himself out of the water, and then rise. And even when he rises, he still would have air to breathe. And they have to remove the top of the suit so he could actually breathe again. The entire time with the water scenes, the dude's pretty much holding his breath.
That's impressive.
I know.
Now, honestly, I wasn't expecting to enjoy how they would defeat Godzilla, because most of it's just like a lazy, like, we have a new bomb and whatever, and da-da-da-da-da. But they literally had to go, like, to the bottom of the ocean floor. You actually saw Godzilla chilling underwater, which I was like, okay, that's something new. And then Godzilla's just, like, spinning around in the ocean.
He wakes up and he starts heading towards them.
Yeah, I thought it was cool. I thought it was a cool climax. I really liked it.
Yeah, and then the Dr. Serizawa again, he's just like, this is the ultimate weapon. This outclasses nukes, and it's being used to evil. He never wants it to be used. The entire time, he never wants it to be used. Then Godzilla destroys the 3 prefectures, and the guy's like, okay, fine.
He's
then,
like,
I guess.
dang.
And he burns his document to once I release this, every other political party will try and get me to make it again. So in the end, he's just like, this is the first and last time, and I know for sure because I'm going down with it as well. So him, Godzilla, both die by the oxygen destroyer. Spoilers? Well, I guess. Spoilers.
Yeah.
But hey, well, yeah.
It's an old movie.
It's an old movie.
Spoilers.
Yeah.
This came out 2 decades ago.
And the dudes, they both reprise their roles, both being suits. And the next one, Godzilla Revenge. So the Angusaurus, which is the second most classic monster that Godzilla has ever came out. So yes, some people have debated that Ghidorah is, but a lot of true fans think the Angusaurus, which is this giant armadillo with spikes. Both of them are the guy in Godzilla and the guy doing both of them are the original suit dudes, and I forgot his name. I don't remember his name, but he reprised his role as Godzilla numerous amount of times. Godzilla SOS, or was it Godzilla 2000? Whatever. Godzilla Destroy All Monsters, and so on and so forth. There's been multiple Godzilla films, and multiple different themes to each one. Godzilla has been shown as a monster of destruction made of nuclear energy, a force of nature, a protector of Earth, and so on and so forth. He done dancing, he done jump kicks.
He's got it all. He's got it all.
Yeah, he has it all. Took an asteroid to the face and did nothing. Killed his ultimate form, Space Godzilla.
He sorted out the 2020 election by hand. He's just he's the monster we need, but the monster we don't deserve.
If you want to say it that way.
Yeah, honestly.
Yeah, there's been forms where he's just constantly evolving. Like Zaki said, we watched Shin Godzilla, where he just evolves right on the spot, and people are like, bro, which just the CGI in Shin Godzilla is it's something.
Yeah. We have no comment. We're here to talk about the original.
Gojira.
Last thoughts on the original Godzilla.
The music, the composer is awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty dope. Really iconic.
The themes. If you watch out of all the Godzilla movies that you watch over the year, you'll realize that a lot of it is from his composer, just remade a little bit. Every time when the military comes on, the it's pretty much almost in every single Godzilla movie when the military appears.
Look for that melody.
And then the whole bum 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 bum. Almost a lot of the times you'll hear it remaking a bunch of Godzilla. I don't really like the 2019 King of All Monsters version take on that one. It's awesome, but I don't really like it. Whatever. The classics. But yeah, the melody and music is also awesome. And like I said, with the whole showing of the aftermath, they had a choir also sing, and
I really like that part.
That also brought home the whole this is destruction and devastation. Oh, man, I love the music. But yeah, I really like Godzilla.
Yeah, and if you haven't seen Godzilla, I would strongly recommend it. Even for those people who are like me that don't like big monster movie films, give it a try. It's really that great. It really deserves your attention. And we will be back with a regular episode of Critics and Cynics with our regular host, Paniote David Flutsis. In the meantime, this has been our podcast.
Yeah. Oh, one more thing before we go. So, if you're ever wondering how they did the atomic breath, it was a smoke machine. I always love that fact. They just rigged the smoke machine into the head and just activate it. If you're ever curious about how it worked. Yeah, that's my final thought.
That was for free.
And I'm also gonna, go out there and say what my favorite movie is. My favorite movie is The Count of Monte Cristo, the 2002 version, I think it is. Yeah, I really, really enjoy. I love monster movies, don't get me wrong, but a good revenge story is where it's at. I love me some revenge.
So be on the lookout for a possible Count of Monte Cristo movie, 2002. In the meantime, this has been Critics and Cynics.
Bubs out.